Hey everyone, welcome to Fast Forward, the podcast about real conversations, not highlight reels. We go beyond tactics and talk about the people behind the work, how they think, what drives them, and how they grow. This is a space for honest conversations from real founders. Today I am joined by Carl LaFever, the founder of Improve and Grow. Carl, how are you?
Good. How are you, Jeffrey?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for joining. So yeah, what took you to start your company, Improve and Grow, and what challenges did you have before, and what was it that made you decide to start your own business?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely didn't start out with the idea of starting my own business. I worked for almost 20 years in corporate America and was perfectly satisfied at the time to do that. I spent about 15 years as basically an internal consultant doing Lean Six Sigma process improvement work. And a lot of my focus there was using the scientific method to basically help the companies I was working for cut their costs. And I kind of got tired of that. And I saw a common root cause to their need to cut costs was that they couldn't control the revenue side of things. So at my last corporate gig, I talked them into letting me focus those same operational disciplines on the sales processes. And we saw really good results. And I kind of realized, wow, I kind of found the place I want to make my mark in the world, which is helping organizations grow their revenue instead of just using what I had learned to cut costs, because that was kind of tiring.
Right.
But I also learned that about corporate burnout, and
Sure.
basically took a 6-month hiatus from corporate life to focus on my family. We spent 6 months overseas doing missions work.
Ah,
And
cool.
when I came back home, I just had kind of a different mindset towards work and really had no desire to go back to corporate life. I actually spent 2 years working for a Christian retreat center, helping them with their initiatives, and along the way formed the idea for and started Improve and Grow. And, early on, the goal was just help organizations grow. It was really undefined. And I just kind of figured I would do the same kind of consultant role that I had before, just with smaller businesses. And what I learned was that they did need the consulting, but they also needed help implementing. And so I realized I quickly needed to figure out how to arm myself with implementation skills. And
Mm,
at the organization I was working for at the time, I was actually getting into helping them with their marketing. That's where they needed the most help. I realized my background in process improvement and using data and analysis and research and all of that was actually really helpful to helping them figure out how to improve their marketing campaigns. And so, um, I basically just pivoted and decided we're going to become a digital marketing firm. And that was going to be the way that we helped organizations grow.
right. So you took your professional experience in a firm and
Yep.
then took that exact your knowledge and began implementation and finding more. You were guided by what you knew, but then you were also able to figure things out as you went and develop, as you've been in business for more than 10 years now, you were able to
Yeah.
expand upon what you didn't know and find success with that.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't start out deciding to be a marketing company. We started out saying, hey, I want to help organizations grow. And I assumed that would be consulting like we had done for
Yeah.
corporations. But we got into marketing more as a means to an end. Like that became the way we were helping organizations grow. But yeah, that's the skills of like understanding that the outcomes that you seek are a function of the processes that lead to those outcomes. And that if you want a different outcome, you need to change the processes. One of the ways to figure out how to change a process is to measure it and understand how it works. That's kind of what I did in my past career. So I
Right.
kind of brought that to marketing, like for example, with Google Ads, you're using a lot of data to decide what to do and whether or not what you're doing is working. And I kind of just naturally took a more data-driven approach to that, as opposed to, I mean, I've never been a creative marketer, so I really don't know
Right.
what life is like on that side of things. But I
Right.
imagine it has more to do with who's my audience, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
And those things are important, but it's also important to have all the technical stuff in order to have the data to prove that it's working.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
interesting. So you're analytical in the way you do things, and you've been able
absolutely.
to apply that type of thinking into now marketing. And I imagine the further we get along into the digital age, your strategies are even more, I would say, help you stand out in a digital marketing world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other thing I learned in the corporate world was everything's driven by money. I don't necessarily
Yeah,
love
that's for
that.
sure.
I don't necessarily love that about that. But my point there is that money becomes kind of the common denominator. And then even a more finite common denominator is time. And then, as the cliche is time is money. But if you can boil down, basically all problems or opportunities come down to money and time. And if you can figure out how to save time, you make more money, or create more time, you make more money. And so, because I was able to talk in the language of money, I was able to convince the executives that I was working for to make investments in making different changes. And so I kind of brought that to the way we approach marketing, where we are able to convince companies to invest in something that they've maybe never invested in before, or invest in it in a different way than they have before, because I'm showing them either how much money it's costing them to not make that change, or how much money they could gain if they were to approach things differently than they do today.
And that type of transparency is, I assume, very important for companies when deciding who to use for digital marketing.
Yeah, a lot of times we're either the first time they've invested in digital marketing, or they have failed once, twice, or
Mm,
even more. And so they're understandably skittish, either because they've never invested this way before, or because they have and it didn't work. So our ability to kind of show them not just what we recommend they do, but to put it in terms of numbers
yeah,
and kind of prove it, not just like pulling numbers out of a hat and saying, oh, I think I
right.
could do this for you, but actually showing them market research, showing them examples, and showing them how that translates to bottom line results for them certainly goes a long way towards giving them confidence to invest.
Right, and your ability to not only be transparent with how you're going to make them money or help them build their brand, but your also effectiveness is gonna be really important. So, I imagine you rely on success stories
Yes.
because people, I mean, I'm not saying this is about you, but in general, digital marketing can't, promises are assured and then harder to keep.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, early on, we kind of had to bank on trust. People, a
Right.
certain number of people had to trust us, and we had the benefit or the blessing of having a few clients that we worked for that already knew us and trusted us, and were willing to kind of roll the dice a bit and see how it would go. But very quickly, I mean, my core marketing strategy is, and our number one company value is customer success. It's the idea that if we focus on helping customers succeed, our success will follow. And
Mhm.
so that's really our marketing approach as well. Is we're basically just sharing stories of successes that we've had for similar clients and saying, should be able to do this for you too.
Very cool. Did you have so you said you were able to find clients that, trusted you early on. Was there a particular case that really made you, um, have belief or, like, kinda get you over the edge of, like, starting and realizing that, what you're doing is effective and needed out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the Christian retreat center that I was working for, it was a family friend. They gave me a job working there. They originally brought me in to help with something entirely different, but when that project was over, we were interested in continuing their engagement, but we needed to find a new problem to solve. And at the time, they were spending a certain amount of money every month on Google Ads, and they were pretty happy with the fact that they were covering the cost of the ads. And I was like,
Breaking even?
yeah, exactly. And
What's the point?
I was like, well, wait a minute. It's not free to provide those sales. So you're
Yeah.
actually losing money. And that kind of sparked a conversation of, oh, wow, you're right. And I was like, I believe you should actually, like, if this is worth investing in, you should actually be getting a return, not just breaking even. And in fact, when I uncovered it, they weren't actually breaking even; they were losing money. But within about 6 months, we were able to turn that around to getting a 10-time return on investment. And so, yeah, that was super
Wow.
motivating to me, because I had spent 15 plus years slaving away in corporate America trying to make changes, and often was successful, but it often took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a
Mhm.
lot of influence to get people to move. And here I could pull levers or push buttons, on the Google Ads interface or their website, or,
Mhm.
with advertising copy, and affect changes nearly immediately. So that was super exciting. Yeah, it was inspiring.
Yeah, within 6 months, you said that
Yeah.
much change. Wow.
Yep. And then that client, I mean, they're still a client today. So 12 years later, they are still a client. They're not our biggest client, but they're still a
Sure.
client. And one of the things I love about them as a client is they're always willing to like try different things. And so they're not the only client we've learned things through, but I kind of credit them with really trusting us early on,
Right.
and then continuing to be
And
a
still
partner in
doing
that
that.
way. Yep.
And being open to new suggestions or new strategies, or which is exactly my next question. I'm sure the whole scope of the industry has changed a lot since you started. Have you noticed lately or over time that's changed the most, and how do you stay ahead of it, or how do you predict what's coming it's a lot of trends in digital marketing, so that's why I asked that.
Yeah. One of the things I love about digital marketing is it's always changing. I'm like most people, particularly entrepreneurs, I kind of get bored if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I have found that I love that about digital marketing. But even with that, we found we've had to continually just narrow down. Like the last 12 years has been really a process of narrowing things down. And so
Mhm.
a lot of our focus has actually been on search marketing. So helping the businesses that we work for show up better on Google primarily, but other surfaces as well. And in terms of what's changed, I mean, the way it's funny, things have changed dramatically, but also things are the same. And I guess what I mean by that is being relevant to the people you want to reach and what they're searching for and the core fundamentals of doing that. From my perspective, what I cut my teeth on learning 12 years ago and then have relearned every year since then, it's shocking to me how much is still the same, but also just the tactics, the specific tactics and the priority and order in which you approach them has changed quite a bit. I mean, the one thing that my industry, the SEO part of what we do, people make a full-time job out of just trying to figure out what Google does and then exploit that. And then Google seems to make a full-time job out of figuring out how people are exploiting things and plugging those holes. So that's the part that's always changing. But
Mm.
the common root of it is um, you know um, creating valuable, helpful content for the people that you're trying to help. That's the part that hasn't changed. Like that, when I learned SEO, that was how I learned to approach it, and that particular approach has not failed us. So while the ways of doing that change, that core fundamental has always stayed the same. And then, I learned early on that just getting in front of the right people is not enough. You have to have the right message. And even having the right message, what someone who is just beginning their search needs to hear versus someone who's ready to make a
Yeah.
decision needs to hear is very different. So admittedly, it took years to kind of really figure that out. And that's that whole problem solving approach that I learned in my past corporate life has aided us well, just in terms of the agency as well. I mean, in the first 3 years or so, we had what I would say is about a 50% success rate, meaning 50% of the customers saw year on year growth and stayed. And the other half didn't see growth and didn't stay. And
Mm.
we basically did our own project on ourselves to figure out, well, what's the difference? What works and what
Mhm.
doesn't? And at that time, their website and the quality of the website or the focus of the website or the positioning of the brand on the website at that time was a big problem. And so we didn't start out to develop websites. We started out just trying to drive traffic through paid and organic search. But that got us into building websites because we realized if they're paying us to bring all this great traffic to a site that doesn't convert, it's not going to work. And that's just one example. I mean, we've
Mhm.
learned, lots of that. Even just that small slice of our world has changed quite a bit. So it's just always trying to figure out what is or isn't working and what to or not to change.
Right. It's interesting that you say that, like, you spend a lifetime trying to become an expert at the SEO, and then at the same time, Google is working at ways to prevent you from exploiting their practices. So you're always
Yep.
having to learn and stay ahead of it,
Yep.
adjusting to be the best at your craft.
Yeah, but that's honestly what keeps it. It definitely keeps it exciting for me, and then I've learned it keeps it exciting for my team as well. I mean, I have also learned to appreciate that there's some benefit and comfort in stability. So creating proven processes, proven frameworks,
Mhm.
standardizing things, and having a general or typical approach to things is helpful, but also holding that with an open hand and being willing to look at it critically and change it if needed is not only important to success, but also just keeps the job exciting.
Absolutely. And how do you best go about conveying that message to your team and assuring that they represent you and all that you've built?
Yeah. I mean, it starts, one of our first most important company values, customer success, but our second one is continual improvement. Like the way we ensure we're always putting our customers first and doing a good job for them is by continually improving the way that we do that. So it starts with kind of baking that into, I mean, that's just who I am and the way I approach things, but we wrote that into our company values, realizing that every person on the team needed to think and be that way. So it starts with the way we craft the roles. All the roles have continuous improvement expectations built
Mhm.
in. It goes into the way we recruit. It goes into the way we interview. It goes into the way we train. And it goes into the way we reinforce all of that in in how each function is built. We've also just built it practically into the way we approach our work. I mean, there's basically four main things we do: SEO, PPC, websites, and CRM. All those kind of form together to provide a complete solution for our clients. But in the way we deliver those, we're like many marketing agencies where we do it on a retainer basis. We have a certain scope of work that we do every month. But what we've built into our process is there's continual improvement built into that monthly work cycle,
Mm,
meaning our SEO team, every month, they're given a block of time to step back, look at how things are going, figure out what the next turn of the wheel is, and then identify what those actions are going to be. And then after they take those actions, evaluate them. How did that work? What do we need to do next? Our paid ads team, they do that's the way they approach the advertising campaigns. Our website team, most people build a website and then kind of maybe make some tweaks or adjustments to content, but otherwise leave it alone
mhm.
until 3 to 5 years later and then build it again. We take more of a living, breathing approach to the website where every month we're making changes to the website. We're looking at how it's performing. We're making adjustments to it. So that, we've built continuous improvement even into the way we deliver client work.
Nice. So how do you balance being the strategist alongside being the CEO, the founder of your business, and being that like coach, mentor, role model, whatever you want to be for your team? Because all of those identities are part of what go into running a business.
Yeah, it's certainly been a challenge. I mean, I spent most of even though I was in executive leadership roles, I spent most of my career in more of what I'll call an individual contributor role, where 80% or more of my impact came from what I did, as opposed to working
Yeah,
through a
that's
team.
exactly.
And even when I led teams of professionals. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah, there wasn't much hand-holding or anything. It was just like it was, business transactional. People are here, they already went through the interviews, they're already part of the team. You're not
yep.
handling that part.
Yeah, so one of the things I kind of brought into the way I built the team here at Improve and Grow is because my experience is more in running a team of professionals and
Right.
kind of professional development as opposed to, the kids coming out of college, interning,
Sure,
job entry, that kind of stuff. So
sure.
when I've hired people, I've tended to hire people who already have industry experience, who've already kind of figured out what they need to do. So that has certainly helped. And the others, it's just been a journey. I mean, the first, you know, 3 years, it was just me in my basement and some contractors. And then when I started hiring team, like I said, I focused on hiring people who already had professional experience and those shared values. But yeah, well, I've learned that we still need to keep. I've had to adjust what I do and the way I approach it. So EOS, if you've heard of that, the Entrepreneur Operating System.
I haven't actually.
There's a book called Traction. I forget the author's name right now. I think it's Gino Wick, but I might be getting the last name wrong. But he codified an approach called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's basically um, an approach for running a business that's focused on small business and entrepreneurs. So it's got some simple tools in it. After I had that recommended by a couple of business mentors, read the book, kind of got really excited about that, and have used that as a basic framework to just understanding we need to have basic SOPs in place. We need to have a scorecard in place. And we need to have a managing system in place. And I'd already had some of that background in my corporate life, but a lot of that was corporatized. So I was used
Right.
to working in systems that had been built for $1 billion plus corporations. EOS gave us some tools that we could use on a smaller scale with a small business entrepreneur mindset. So that was a big game changer for me because I realized I had to focus on building a leadership team and building a company that ran on its own,
Exactly.
as opposed to kind of everything having to come to me. And so that's honestly, it's been a journey. We're about 4 or 5 years into this goal of creating a business that runs on its own. And we're close. I mean, I've taken off a lot of hats. I basically do sales and the CEO role now. And the next hat I'll take off will be sales. Eventually I'll take the CEO hat off too. So even though, strategy is key to what I do and it's the way I approach sales, I'm not actually involved in the day-to-day of client work at all anymore, other than
Wow.
when the team or the client is pulling me in to help with something.
That's impressive. So that really says something about how you structure your business and how you convey your message. I think those are two things that are a challenge, and for you to be able to step back and trust your team is certainly a testament to what you've been able to accomplish. So congratulations, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's like I said, it's been a journey. I've sat through plenty of webinars or read plenty of books that make it sound like, just spend 6 months focusing on this and it'll work. And I'm saying, hey, 5 years later, it's still a journey, but we've made a ton of progress. So
I mean, as long as you're making progress, that's all you can ask for.
exactly.
6 months, 5 years, whatever it is, of just staying true to your mission and getting to your goal is the important thing, of course. So, speaking of team members, how have you utilized the newest team member, AI, into your processes, and how has it affected your day-to-day?
Yeah. Um, I mean, as a general stance, we are not anti-AI in any way, shape, or form. We have embraced AI in a lot of different ways, but we see it primarily as a time saver, and not even
Mhm.
necessarily time saver, but also it's enabled us to actually be more consistent in the way we approach stuff. So, as an example, I'll just use a quick
Sure.
example. We produced something for our clients early on in the relationship called a brand messaging guide, where we're essentially trying to document who they are as a brand, who their target audience is, and kind of create a framework, a messaging framework that our team can then use whenever we're producing content for the client, whether it's on the website, in an ad, or elsewhere. And, there's a process of discovery where we're interviewing the client. There's a process of research where we're researching the market, analyzing competitors. And then there's some creative input that goes into there, right? Like, okay, how do we best position this client? And then there's some editing and things that go into that. Our approach with AI in that case has been we use ChatGPT a lot. We build a custom GPT
Okay,
that
that's where I thought you were going.
basically models, we've developed a system of prompts that models that process. So our team, like our strategist, is still involved with producing the brand messaging guide. But in this case, ChatGPT is aiding us in conducting some of the research, compiling some of the information, and producing that. And frankly, I would argue our work product is better
Yeah.
now than it was before, because when your team gets overwhelmed, they've got a lot to do. You can cut corners if you develop your prompts and guardrails in the right way. AI doesn't cut corners. so,
Right.
that's just one example, but I would say that's one way, is basically systematizing things that are routine or that require a level of consistency, an amount of time investment that we might not have. So it's created some efficiency and some consistency there. I would also say it's broadened our ability. It's empowered more people on our team to be able to produce content than before. Yeah, I would say that for myself. If someone can give me a list of ideas, I can respond to those ideas. If someone can give me some copy to react to, I can spot good or bad copy, but I do horribly if it's a blank board. And so
Mm,
in that way, AI has become kind of a sounding board for us, or a way to generate a bunch of ideas and then sift through and evaluate those ideas. So I would still argue we are very involved. We're not relinquishing or relegating anything to AI. I've been very clear with my clients and our team, like, we still own the work product in terms of accountability for it and accuracy and completeness, but
mhm.
we've both been able to cover more ground and do so more quickly with the aid of.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? You want to make sure that your processes are as up to date and precise as possible, but not taking your clients into consideration when you're implementing AI, because there's the other side of AI, which is like relinquishing all of your creative and any process
Right.
to it, and you have to make sure the balance is good for you and your client and just your business identity.
Yep. Yeah, it has to both be, it has to be authentic and work for the client, but also if all we're doing is phoning it in, right,
That's what I mean.
to some machine, like, at some point, why wouldn't your client just learn how to phone it in too? And and this is honestly for us, like, generative AI in the most recent 2 years or so, that's obviously been a big shift.
Mm,
But to some degree, we see this as just a natural another step or leg in the journey that at least we, from a digital marketing perspective in our agency and the way we approach things, have already been on. Meaning
mm,
that, um, I mean, just as an example, Google Ads over the years has had all kinds of products where the theory is you can remove the agency from the equation. Like, hey, business owner, just use this wizard here. Tell us a
That's
little bit about your business, plug in your website, we'll handle the rest. And I would tell you that about 80 to 90% of the time, campaigns that are handed up, relegated to Google, in this case, to the Google Ads platform with no oversight, 80 to 90% of those completely fail.
mhm,
There's the 5 to 10% that maybe succeed or at least have enough success to kind of suggest that it is possible. But what we have found is most clients don't even understand what they're looking at, and they need someone who does understand what they're looking
absolutely.
at. And so certainly the amount of time we spend looking at it today looks very different than it did 10 years ago. And the way we look at it and what we look at is different. So in that same way, like, we just see AI as another, what I'll say is, machine learning has been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's
Generative AI is the new part. And that has grown so rapidly even in just the last year. But even that, you still need an educated operator behind the screen to evaluate, to give good prompts and to evaluate the output. Otherwise, it's just junk.
yeah, I think that's a great way to frame it. When you're talking about anything, I feel like most, Google or website builders are all targeting consumers, individuals to use their products and tell them that they can do it on their own, right? But like you said, 80 to 90% of people doing their own campaigns for marketing don't really have a comprehension of what to do and how to best utilize their brand. And until the day that that's going to happen is probably never. And especially now, I feel like with the addition of AI into the business world, people feel that they have the capability to be entrepreneurs, like more than ever, at least. And I feel like
Hmm.
it is something that is true, but when you get to a certain point, you have to rely on the pros, and especially in digital marketing, you can get a lot further along on your own now. But to actually implement a working system, there's nothing that experience can't replace.
Yeah. I mean, vibe coding is a great example of that,
Vibe
right? And
coding.
I haven't actually built an app yet. I'm speaking from observation as opposed to actual
I
experience. But
have. I love it.
that's my observation is, like, I could actually take an idea and get a working version of an app
Yeah.
done in a way that before I would have never even done because it would have required too much investment
Yeah.
of time. To make it operational and sustainable over time, we still
Engineers.
need developers or engineers, right? So I think that's a great example. And I'm sure there will come a day where that gets moved even further down the pike,
Right.
meaning AI will take on a greater role in that. But I honestly celebrate that. I don't look at that as the demise of marketers or the demise of engineers or developers. I see that as just a continued ability for us to focus our time and energy in places where we actually add value.
Exactly. I totally agree. That's what I always think about is that if I had an idea and I wanted to convey the idea to someone, to a business or even developers, I can finally get to that point without being a developer myself. And that's powerful. I feel like that's really what's needed to expedite the idea from idea to working prototype. And I think that separation between idea and working prototype has always been a problem for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And now you have that ability to get your idea out there and something that works and then easily comprehended from a team of engineers, designers, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of saying this just re-saying this in a different way, but like, we have a lot of ideas, but because of what it used to cost to try to even just get to a prototype of those ideas, a lot of
Cost.
those ideas just stay on the table. And now you can actually get something that someone can actually look at and not just try to respond to as an idea, but actually tangibly work with. And it gives you a chance to both test the idea and test what
Exactly.
needs to be refined about that idea before you make it live. It's pretty.
Absolutely agreed. I don't know if you ever used Lovable, but that's a really cool one.
Nice.
Yeah, it allows you to do whatever you want basically.
Yep, I think I've created an account twice, and usually I start testing things in the evenings, if I'm kinda just have a break in the action and see someone talk about some cool tool they're using, and then
So
I
much
go
fun.
sign up and try it. But I realized pretty quickly with that one that I would need to spend some dedicated
Yeah,
time just getting my arms around it. And
fair.
that's another lesson I've kind of learned is I've realized I'm can be a victim to the shiny object syndrome. And I've had to be real intentional about just, nope, you know
Mhm.
what? That's not where I need to invest my time right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a challenge we all have every day with the unlimited amount of distractions, it seems.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward 3 to 5 years. What do you see as the next chapter for you, and where do you think you guys may thrive in that landscape?
Yeah, I expect to be, I'll be 50 in a couple of months. I have no
Nice.
plans. I have no plans to slow down, but my goal has always been to create more freedom to kind of work where I want to work and when I want to work and how I want to work. And so, 5 to 10 years from now, I envision Improve and Grow will truly run on its own, meaning I don't necessarily need to clock in every day. I still plan to continue working, but it's always been my desire to spend some time kind of giving back, helping nonprofits, helping organizations that might not otherwise be able to afford our kind of help, and just finding other ways to make an impact. I expect our team will be larger. So, the way that I go about work will probably look a little different, but I think there'll still be a lot of things the same. I mean, it's built into the name of our company. We help other companies grow by improving their marketing. I don't see that changing, but I don't even know if I can envision exactly how that'll change. I'm sure that the ways we go about that will look very different 5 to 10 years from now. But yeah, I expect to be even better at doing that for our clients. I expect to have an even stronger team, and I expect to be having even more fun doing it.
Awesome. Well, I think that based on everything and you've been in business for more than 10 years, I think you have a promising future and look forward to seeing everything that you guys do in the future.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. For people who want to work with you, where can they find you or see your work online?
Yeah, our website's at improveandgrow.com. And right from the menu there, you can get where you need to go. You can learn about the services we offer, the pricing, and the success stories of our past work with clients.
Sounds good. Well, it's been a pleasure, Carl. Hope you have a great day. And thanks for having a chat about you and your business and improve and grow. And it's been a pleasure.
Thanks. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Okay. Have a good one.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or really anywhere you get your podcasts. And maybe you can share it with someone you know that is either interested in business, interested in founder stories, kind of hearing the behind the scenes of why people do the things that they do, and just in general, good conversation. So be sure to subscribe and follow us everywhere.